welcome to TransParents. And for all of you new on TikTok, hi. This is new. We're experimenting with something tonight. So that's why Jenny looks a little bit further back with her phone. It's because we're doing this in more locations now. We're also on YouTube. So welcome to everybody in LinkedIn. I believe Tiana has already said hello
I've
in our
already
comments.
Deborah, a user with a bunch of numbers behind their name, which is fine. Welcome. Hi, Rachel. Welcome to the TransParents pod. We are doing this a little bit different this time. Hello to my LinkedIn friends. It's me, Jenny. My pronouns are she, her. We are actually taking the TransParents pod over here to TikTok as in a live feature. Hi, Karen. Hi, Eagle. Hi, Max. And we're doing this, to reach more people. We are parents of trans kids. We love and honor and support and affirm trans folks. And but right now, Amber, who is Moonchild77, I did make a post about it, by the way, in my TikTok. But anyway, find her on there. Find her, my friends. Where are we going to find her? Moonchild77. And she needs to get to 1,000 followers so that we don't have to do it in this weird little way where I'm like filming the computer screen, basically. So anyway, that's all I'm going to say about that. Let's get this party started. Hello again, Max and Deborah.
I would say and maybe next week I'll actually add Moonchild to my label, and that would help. Like the same way you have yours, Jenny. If I have that up there next week, yeah,
Stick
maybe
on there.
I'll go back to that. Oh, okay. Playing with buttons I shouldn't be playing with. Okay. So this evening we want to talk about trans safety. And there's often this question mark of whether you're safe around trans people, which we both find ridiculous. But because there is so much misinformation and disinformation out there, we figured we would speak to it. And so earlier this week, actually, and Jenny, correct me if I'm wrong, was that comment that you posted because of the whole thing that was going around about the women, if they feel safer with men or bears or whatever that combo was?
Yes, and someone commented something to the effect of, oh, soon we'll be seeing women say they feel safer with trans people. And I don't know if it was supposed to be a gotcha, but it wasn't, because first of all, soon, like, we've been there. Second of all, to compare trans people to, wild animals that could potentially attack you is just freaking gross. But ultimately, it's to really make comments like that, just to bring to light how silly, stupid, and flippant they are, and just to blow them off. Like, what a stupid thing to say. Of course,
right.
Of course I feel
right.
like a trans person. Hi, Jordan. Hi, Kayla.
And hey, Michelle, who has come to the show. People be crazy. They are.
Yeah.
And so what I had actually, then I decided that I would go say something in response to this. And so what I actually said to the person was that in my personal experience, I had never had an issue with feeling safe with members of the trans community, but I definitely had a problem with men in general, with members of the clergy, and with politicians. And they came back and someone came back. Actually, a lot of people liked the comment. But I had somebody who came back and was like, "Where's your proof?" And I just kind of gave off my actual personal experience uh, of crimes where I've been essayed before in my past, and the violence that was committed against me, and how those were all from men. And there's 4 instances that I can count off of my own, and none of them have ever been trans people, nor have I ever felt unsafe with trans people. I don't have a problem going to the bathroom with trans women. We've talked about this a little bit before, I believe, in here, that neither one of us, like, we would certainly feel much safer, much safer. Like, I'm infinitely safer with trans women than I am, and not to generalize, but then the context of the violence of what we know is most often from men.
I think that the whole point of that little argument in the first place was so we understood it. We knew what the heck it was saying, but we know it was not well received by a lot of cisgender men who really didn't get the point. The point wasn't, would I rather run into a bear or, a guy I go to, I don't know, yoga with, or I don't go to yoga, or somebody I know, somebody I recognize, someone from, that wasn't the question. I know lots of safe men. I'm married to a safe man. I have safe men in my family.
Right.
The question was this unknown of this random unknown man. And that's the missed point, this idea of that it's not all this or it's not all that. Well, we know.
Right.
We know.
Right.
And I've seen other women asking their husbands, like, which one would you rather our daughter encounter? And, and some of them are left a little bit speechless. And I think that's just interesting.
Right. I mean, and it's Jeffrey has actually, is here this evening. Thank you, Jeffrey.
Great.
And Tiana is like the only people who should fear me is the men. Right. Like, I mean, again, it's and I know that speaks of my personal experience. And again, I don't want to put any generalizations. The problem that we talk about the most, and the reason why we're talking about it, is because so many generalizations are being made about the trans population that are completely untrue. There's not even stats to back up a lot of the information, the misinformation that's being put out there. I mean, there's no stats for it. Jeffrey put, what do I fear most? Hate. There's a lot of that. That's kind of what stirs. That's where a lot of this misinformation, disinformation comes from, right? It's not even necessarily hate. It's just the lack of understanding of people that are different than they are, and this fear of it's just a fear of it. Like, I mean, and it really is an irrational fear, right?
Somebody today, I saw a post on Facebook that was about a local, and when I say local, I might mean local to my state. I'm just not sure. But it was a questionnaire for girls in sports at school, public education, and we're talking K-12, K through 12. And it was a questionnaire, and on this questionnaire was something to the effect of, when was your last menstrual period? And lots of people saying lots of different things. First of all, I don't feel like that's anybody's business.
Nope.
If the idea is, oh, well, we're worried about whether or not you had your period because you might be pregnant, you need to play sports. Well, people are pregnant and they play sports. I was a runner. I ran when I was pregnant. It's fine. Second, there are plenty of girls who don't have their period for a multitude of reasons. There are girls with polycystic ovarian syndrome. There are girls who take certain birth control that stops their period because they don't want to have a period. Hold on. I haven't had a period in years. I'm not any less. There's a multitude of reasons, but it's an intrusive question. It seems to be tracking, young women's, young people's menstrual cycle. And I personally don't like that. I think that's very intrusive. But someone under there commented, well, I think it's to protect the girls in these sports because we don't need men pretending to be women and showing up in these sports. And I immediately just jumped in there to say, there are absolutely zero, what's this number? Big goose egg, cisgender men pretending to be women to play women's sports. I want you to really, really think about that real quick. Do you think that some guy, we're not even talking K-12 level, I'm talking all the way up, because that seems to be, because like K-12, who cares, but I'll get there. Do you really think that some man is going, you know what? I've never won a medal in this sport and I really want to. So I'm going to put on a wig and I'm going to tuck my junk and I'm going to do everything I can to look like a woman, because that's how bad I just really want this medal. I don't know. I've got some folks who are asking me to be on the live and listen in the future. Sorry, LinkedIn, give me just 1 second. I do want that. I want you guys to be able to join us. This is our very first night doing it, so hang in there with me. I can't do it tonight because we're kind of figuring this out, but hit us up, keep visiting back, and we will absolutely do it. Okay, go ahead. So
Okay.
that's just not happening. It's not happening. It's ridiculous. Right. And I said, hey, sir, I would really like to invite you to join us on the TransParents pod, you can find us on YouTube. And that's part of what we do, is dispel these myths. And we talk about the lies and the propaganda that we know that you're being fed. We want you to understand that these anti-trans legislations, from bathroom bans to sports bans, not only do they do a lot to hurt kids like mine — I have a young adult son — and Amber's, they do nothing to protect your daughters. They do nothing to protect your daughters. Your daughter's primary threats are overwhelmingly cisgender men. And if they want at them, they're gonna get at them. They don't need bathrooms and dresses. That was not even happening before any of these bathroom sports bans took place. It wasn't a thing. If you're gonna come at me with, well, this one time, we don't really call that a thing when something happens one time. That's a one-time thing. That's a fluke. That's a whatever. But when you're talking something that requires legislation, I mean, I would hope there would be more data than the one thing you think you can pop up with because it happened to your sister's uncle's best friend's former roommate's cat. You know, let's keep it real. Anyway.
Michelle put up here, there's a lack of understanding for two reasons. One, ignorance, and two, misinformation, which is intentionally spread. It's what folks do when they don't have a valid argument or can rely on truth. They cheat, lie, and steal. And, you know, when I'm looking at some of these, like 99% of the crimes, the SA crimes in this country are male. 99%.
Yeah.
When I tried to go Google, specifically, since we were just talking about bathrooms, I went and specifically went out and tried to find stats on this, right? I know you've heard it. I know you've heard it's such a big deal. It's a huge threat out there in every single bathroom. God forbid there be a trans woman. Do you know that there are 0 convictions in the US, 0 convictions of a trans woman or a trans man assaulting anyone in a bathroom, ever? 0 in our entire country. And how many states have tried to push that legislation through? That you are in danger. Honey, how many women, I don't even have to look a stat on this, because I can guarantee you that you know someone that was attacked, that was a woman in a bathroom. Have you ever seen a ban? Have you ever seen a bill that says men have to stay out of women's bathrooms? Ever?
No. I mean, men have to stay out of parks. Men have to stay out of parking garages. No, of course not. Of course not.
Right?
And
that's what we want you to pay attention to.
We need to start pushing for something like that. Because to blanket the entire male gender, no, there are things we can do to keep people safer. It typically falls on the victim or the potential victim, but there's plenty we can do to be safer without taking someone's rights away from them.
Right.
But trans people are not a threat. They're not a danger. Hi, Dawn and Melissa.
They're not at all. And so before we go into more of that, there were just some common myths that when I went out there, I was like, what are some common myths? So let's take a few of the myths apart that just are spread out there about trans people just in general. The first one, it's a mental illness. It's not. In the DSM and the latest version, DSM-5, there is gender dysphoria. But not everyone who is in the trans or in the gender diverse spectrum has gender dysphoria. And gender dysphoria is that incongruence with the sex assigned at birth. But again, people want to say that being trans is a mental illness. It's not.
It's not a brokenness. That dysphoria is something that can be treated. And there are plenty of cisgender people who have something called body dysmorphia, where they will hyper focus on a part of their body or maybe their entire body. I've only ever heard of it to be a part of their body that they become absolutely obsessed with not looking a certain way. And it sucks, but if they have it terribly, we allow them to change their nose if they want to change their nose. Yeah, no,
Well,
I'm with
just I mean, just those people who do go in and do procedure after procedure after procedure, and we do not uh, we don't discriminate. We don't show this bias. We don't push back and decide that, oh, there's something wrong with those people. We don't say there's something mentally ill with those people.
Or if we do, we go, but it's their right. It's your right to be whatever you are up here. I mean, we all stormed the damn, scene for Britney Spears. Free Britney, free Britney. That girl is a mess.
Right?
Have you seen her? I mean, you're lying if you haven't thought to yourself, maybe freeing Britney was a bad idea, but you usually follow it up with, wait a second. Like, it's her right to be weird. It's her. Can you blame her? Like, can you blame her? And she has the right to dance around with swords and look half naked in her house if she wants to and throw that on Instagram. That's her right. And I don't care what the condition or what the mental, what the brain makeup of a trans person is. It's not my business. Whether it's
Right?
absolutely this or absolutely that doesn't matter. That's their right. And they have their brain, and they should have the right to look, dress, change, live according to that without being harassed or discriminated against or denied those rights.
Right? Tiana actually put up here. I decided to opt out of going to the Ren Fair in Oklahoma because I got bad vibes when preparing to make the trip there.
That's a shame, Tiana. I would have met you at the Ren Fair. I'm in Oklahoma. And you know what? The Ren Fair is like a super happy, welcoming, affirming place.
Really?
It's not all bad here. It has its moments. We're working on it. We're working on making it better.
The things that make up my brain is caffeine and nicotine. I definitely got you on the caffeine. I definitely got you on the caffeine there, Tiana.
Well, we
Um,
had Dr. Diana on previously, and it was something Emma already knew, but she really did reiterate, because she's very into neuroscience and neurobiology, that it is neurobiological. So if you want to attribute it in that way as to mean something negative, like something's wrong with your brain, there's lots of things that are biological.
right?
ADHD, like, that's neurobiological. A lot of people watching probably have ADHD. That's neurobiological. It
Right?
doesn't mean you're broken. Lots of people don't even take medications for it.
No,
You learn how to treat what you've got going on, because your brain's a little bit different, and you learn how to navigate life from that vantage point and figure out how to make it
right.
work for you. And that's what trans people are trying to do.
I think another one of the big myths is the trend, or it's a choice. It, it's not a trend or a choice.
No.
Um, it, it's about them understanding who they are and expressing it.
Right.
And who are we? And when I say we, anybody else to say who anybody else is inside their own skin. I don't want anybody to me telling me what my lived experience is, because they don't live inside my body. They have no way of knowing. So why would I ever put that same framework into somebody else's mouth? Like that one always gets me.
I think too, whenever I started hearing that when my son came out, well, what if he changes his mind? What if it's a fad? What if it's a this? Well, kids go through all sorts of little trends and fads and changes and stuff. I don't think so, based on everything I learned. That's why one of the first things I did when my son came out was I learned more. I already had trans friends. I already knew a little bit about trans people. I'm part of the LGBTQ plus community, but I'm going to learn more. And what I learned was it's not really a thing for them to change their mind. But the way I looked at it was, in the event it's a trend, it's a fad, he doesn't know, he's confused. How do I want that to end up if he changes his mind or goes back to being a girl? Well, I want him to know he's safe with me. I want him to know he's okay. I want him to know I'll walk through that with him. And so that's how I approached that. Was, hey, maybe it is. I don't know. But I have an obligation to be a good parent regardless of how that looks. And for me, being a good parent is loving, supporting, affirming my kid in a way that lets them know you're safe here. We'll do this together. And, whatever happens, we're going to get through it together. We've got to remember that affirmation and support are life-saving. They are life-saving.
I think that's the big one, is that they keep creating these bills that will take away what we know is what they need.
Right.
So the people with misinformation and disinformation want to make the choices of what the professionals have already decided. Hey, no, this is best case. This is best care. This is what's best for the patients. And that's always a individualized experience, person to person. And it's not like a kid goes into their doctor. We've discussed this several times here. It is usually, if it is a child, someone who, or a minor under the age of 18, is usually with their parent and a pediatrician and probably counselors and maybe an endocrinologist. And there is a team
There's a team
that are making these decisions.
It almost always starts with a therapist.
Right?
Absolutely. We have a clinic here locally that is for the LGBTQ community, by the LGBTQ community. It's really incredible. Diversity Family Health in Tulsa. Love them. They're in Edmond too, where my kids go to school. And, but most regular doctors, general practitioners, they are going to request and require to see things by a licensed mental health or, professional. So it isn't what people think, where we just walk in with our kids and go, my kid's trans, chop their parts off. My kid is trans, throw them on hormones. That's not really happening. It's just not happening.
No. So I kind of decided that I would go into, because of those comments that were made and because of the topics being brought forward on who committed the crimes and who was safe and who wasn't safe, and everybody wanted to say that the trans community wasn't safe. We thought we'd unpack that a little bit. So the first one we're going to look at is, quite frankly, the mass school shootings incidents that happen in the US. And they haven't really been tracking those clearly since about 2000 forward. And so when you go look for stats, you're kind of stuck with the 80s, the 90s, and then at 2000 they start tracking, like really better tracking. So I went in and I added up all the incidents. And in that time period, so from 1980 until, and I believe the stats went through, let me get to it, 2022, because they usually takes a good year before they finish, I don't know what the right word is, but stamping the approval, and that's the official stat. So it's usually like a year behind when you're getting up the approval. So we've got through 2022 right now. So through 2022, there were 1,375 shootings. Let's see. Since the 80s, there's actually been 1,567 in that time period. Because this was the problem. When I went looking for how many crimes had been committed by non-binary or trans individuals, because this had been pointed out very vividly with the Covenant shooting in Tennessee. This had been put on one of our recent events, and probably 3 weeks ago, right? Like 3 weeks ago. And a particular part of the media spun off on the story that in 5 years there had been 4 shootings by trans individuals or non-binary, right? Well, when you go look at the history of it, out of the, how many did I list out? Hold on, let me go back and get that exact number for you guys. 1,567.
Do the math. What percentage?
4 were by non-binary or trans people. That equals 0.0025%. So when you hear people saying that trans and non-binary they're the cause of mass school shootings, please reject that idea completely.
Okay.
The actual stats on that are that I believe it's like 94% have been men
Yeah. Right.
white men.
Yeah. Not trans men. Not trans.
No, no,
And it's,
no,
it really, it isn't even about like hating on a certain group, but that's our point too. Whenever you're seeing so much hate toward the trans community and towards the non-binary community, towards the LGBTQ community, the reason some of us get so salty and push back with like, hey, look at your cisgender straight white men, isn't because we don't like cisgender straight white men. I'm married.
no.
They're everywhere. It's that, like clean up your own mess, like consider your own mess. Why are you throwing that when at this trans community when it's just
Right?
it's not a thing.
No,
And it's
no. That's the bigger part is it's not a thing, and they're trying to push that it is a thing.
right.
They're trying to push that fear that it's a thing, and they're trying to gaslight you and make it, oh, we've got to protect our bathrooms. We got to protect our women. We got to protect our women in sports.
Yes. It's just here. Let me pile on the reasons why we think you should hate these people. And,
Right? Like we're just trying to tell you that what they're telling you is
it's
crap.
incorrect. It's factually incorrect.
Yep.
If you care about anything, all these things that people claim to care about, you have to care about some facts. You can't come to any conversation and try to enact change, try to make the world better based on lies, based on propaganda, based on things that are just factually incorrect. Your starting point's wrong.
Right.
And just like I told the other guy on, in the last comment, this is not helping protect your daughters. Tell
No.
me how this protects your daughters.
It doesn't. It makes it actually worse. When I tried to go in and look up, yeah, we already talked there were 0 attacks in the bathroom. S8. This is another myth that everybody wants to go off on.
Right.
Almost half of all trans people have been SA'd at some point in their lives. They are over 4 times more likely than cisgender people to experience violent victimization, including rape, SA'd, and assault. The rate is 51 per 1,000 people, 16 years or older, among the trans population. That's 2.5 times the rate of cisgender people. So when they're trying to tell you that they're out there, the ones that are actually committing the crimes, they're the ones that actually have the highest rate of the crimes being committed against them.
Right.
Especially in the last decade.
And yet the legislation directly targets them. There is more anti-trans legislation out there than there is legislation to target any other social problem in this country by far. Exponentially more anti-trans legislation, more than there is to feed hungry children, more than there is to, protect individuals with disabilities, more than there is to, help women not die in childbirth in this country. There is more anti-trans legislation than there is legislation to fix your roads, to lower your tax bill, to anything, and they make up
protect your kids from at school, like
right to keep pew-pews out of school buildings.
Right.
There's more legislation to restrict the rights of trans people than there is legislation to protect your children against violence, against bullies, against predatory people. It is absolutely the number one type of legislation out there. And they make up what, 2% of the population?
Not even.
Yeah.
Michelle, reminds me of what we've done to the Palestinians. Exploitation and gaslighting. that is the majority. I mean, there is so much gaslighting to the trans community, and that is the reason. Like when I started this, like I told Jenny, we kept saying we're going to start it, we're going to start it, we're going to start it, and in November I kind of hit her up and I was like, we have a year before people vote.
Yeah, we need to get.
And it's not that we're like politicians and rail against your politicians. We just want you to know that who you put in office, it is very, very important to know what they're actually telling you and that whether it's true or not. And a lot about the trans community is false in the anti-trans legislation.
Right.
And like Jenny said, it's not just that it's the number one thing that's been targeted in this season and last congressional season. It's the number one thing that has ever been targeted in the history of our Congress
More.
for less than 2% of our population. So I want you to think about that. What are they doing for the other 98% of you?
Right. What time is being wasted making sure that my son doesn't go into the boys' bathroom that could have been spent on making sure that kids have adequate textbooks in their classrooms, making sure that people in this economy have adequate access to resources because they're hungry and they're having to choose between bills and food.
Mental health.
Oh my God, we all want to talk about, anytime there's a school boom boom, we want to say,
let's bring in all the support, all the counselors.
oh, that was a mental health issue. Well, then what are we doing? We're targeting legislation at trans people. Why aren't we targeting mental health? If that is literally unaliving people, why aren't we targeting that? And it is to keep people divided. It's to keep people afraid. It's to keep people feeling like they've got some kind of pedestal that they can be on. Everybody loves an opportunity to look down at somebody. Don't act like you don't, because you do. I'm a true crime fan. I will watch people all the time be like, what an idiot, what a dummy, what a this, and I take the opportunity to think how stupid people are sometimes. And there are times it genuinely just makes me feel better about myself. So we all do it. But this is an opportunity that they are offering you to look down on people who are in danger, who are being targeted and who are in danger. And that should make you go, why do I think that's okay? Why do I want to be in on that? Why don't I want to be in on making sure people are protected and safe and that people have autonomy? That you have autonomy, this whole idea of like, well, my dad always says, you can't just choose to be a man. Why not? Why can't I? No, I know that's not how being transgender works. My son didn't choose to be a boy. He just knew himself to be that and decided to live authentically. But if I want to choose to be a man tomorrow, why can't I? It is 2024. Why can't I choose to be whatever I want to be? It's not going to hurt you. It doesn't affect you. I'm not going to make you do it with me. Why can't I choose what's right for me, for my own body? And people don't want that. People do not want people to have control over their own bodies.
No. And I think it comes back to Michelle had something before. If you can't solve a problem, 100%, you can't solve a problem without facts. Part of this show, and like we said, trans safety, unveiling the truth, disproving the myths. Misconceptions about the trans community create harms, period. And so you have to unpack that to realize, okay, this is a community that's being targeted. It's a community that is misunderstood. It is a community that deserves support and empathy and understanding. And it's harder to provide those things when you have so much of these misconceptions running around rampant. And so like we did kind of feel like we need to kind of take a fire hose to it and put some of the flames out. There's a lot of hate being pushed that it's honestly distractionary.
It is. And now it's starting to bleed over I do not ever want to attempt to put the cisgender experience at the same. I don't want to try to match that up. I don't want to say that it's even remotely the same. And I'm not even, I'm just going to say what I want to say. When you're looking at cisgender people now who are being followed into bathrooms because they maybe look more feminine or they look more masculine, tall women get this. My bonus mom is, oh my gosh, 6'1", 6'2". She is a tall, broad, and whenever you're that tall, I think your bone structure is probably just not as teensy weensy as like a 5'2" little person. So, maybe that can, we do associate tallness with masculinity. And so these women are being followed into bathrooms and harassed. And
I think we talked about that on one of our shows. There was a case of a woman that had a double mastectomy, and she had been attacked within a bathroom. I can't remember if she had been attacked, but that there have been other people
yes,
because they had been, whether they just had more masculine features, right?
right,
Or they took um, a specially abled child into a bathroom.
right.
They were arrested because people thought they were trans going into the wrong bathroom. And they weren't doing anything. When I did the stats on those guys, like there are 0 attacks of trans people ever attacking anyone in a bathroom in the US, anywhere. Anywhere. 0. No trans women, no trans men.
Not happening. It's not happening. You know who is being attacked? Other people by transphobes. Those people are being attacked.
Because of the laws that have been created.
Well,
Because of the fear that's been stoked.
And they feel empowered to do it. When 50% of the population agrees with this enough to vote that way, shoot, you would feel empowered to do that. And the harm is being caused. It's not to the people that are afraid. That's not who's getting hurt. It's the people who are just trying to live their lives who are getting hurt.
And they're 4 times more likely to be injured, to be harmed in some form or unalived just because of how they feel.
Yeah.
Just because of how they identify. And we do have, because we covered it, we do have pro legislation that is out there that is trying to protect trans people. In the same ways that the anti-trans are trying to tear down rights away from them and access away from them. We do have pro. The problem is who controls those gears within those state houses, within the federal houses. And that goes back to who you vote for, and that goes back to fact. And whether what you're being told is fact or whether it's not, and whether you're going to the polls on facts or whether you're going to the polls on misinformation. And it's vital that you know what the facts are. Vital. People's lives depend on it. These same states that are saying, people are being arrested or attacked in bathrooms who are cisgender because of the anti-trans bills. In those same states, I can almost guarantee you, 9 times out of 10, they also have no concealed carry permits, no background checks, and open Second Amendment rights.
Oh, that's us. That's us all the way.
That's us too. And Florida, it's the South. It's the entire South. Well, actually, it's about the whole middle.
I saw somebody approach a car the other day. I'm just doing my drive, and somebody was road raging and approaching a car and up in this person's face right at their window. And I'm like, people in Oklahoma are either fearless or stupid or crazy, because there is no way in heck I would mess with anybody. And I know that's supposed to be like the point. That is supposed to be the point. And you know what? Heard, no problem. I do not get up in anybody's face. I'm not trying to get out of my car to go see somebody at their car to tell them I don't like them. No, thank you.
No.
I get home not in a body bag. No. It's wild.
it
Yeah.
it is. But I
It's
mean that is again kind of that point of the reason why the point of our show is to kind of like break these misconceptions. You have to have fact to know how to make your decisions, what to base your decisions on. And I think the next part is okay. So the whole point of the show was safety and how we want to promote safety. And if you're out there saying that trans people, it's scary to be around them and they're dangerous, that makes it more dangerous for them.
absolutely.
10 times more dangerous for them, which means 10 times more dangerous for our kids. And our sons are like the least,
Oh yeah.
they're the least targeted phase because they identify as male and they're white.
Yeah.
You try a trans black female, our kids are 10 times more safer.
I would be absolutely terrified. And I know every Black mama is already terrified for her child all the time. You know, what's going to
Right?
happen? Trying to teach your kids how to interact with the world in a way that keeps them safe because people already discriminate against them. My like Black mamas of trans daughters have all of my heart. It would be terrifying. It would be really scary because they're the most targeted.
Right? Like, I mean, and we know that they're,
It's
I don't have the stat on that, but they are the most, um, they are the stat for the
yeah,
most crime, uh, and most unaliving
right.
based solely on their gender identity.
Absolutely. And there's, we can break down in another show, like really what goes behind this fear, because I've spent a lot of time trying to understand what's behind it. And I've come up with a lot. I don't know how accurate all of it is, but I have enough people in my life that I do have access to and can talk to about it and to try to figure out what's going on in their minds, why they are so
Hmm.
opposed to my kid existing. And it's funny because they're not opposed to my kid existing. They're just opposed to like the concept and construct within which he is existing, which I'm like, but that is who he is.
Yeah, yeah. I'm fine with your kid, not your kid. I just mean trans and
Oh,
people
you're
in general.
acting like those other people's kids, or they'll say things like, well, you're no, but you did it right. And I'm like, I did it the same way most parents do it. I did it. We all pretty
There's no
much,
difference,
you want to change your clothes, cool. You want to change your hair, cool. You want to change your name and pronouns, cool. Like, that's pretty much all we did. It's not a big deal. It's not
right?
good. Leanne coming in clutch. I always love her. She just gets on here and gives us a bunch of likes, Amber, so that we can get up there because the more likes you have, obviously it's good for the algorithm. What
Right?
star? What a star, Leanne. I'm gonna pick something out for you and send it to you. Okay.
Well, I
So
mean, I think when you talk about that promotional, promoting safety, like the other part of that is by unpacking all of that misinformation. It's not just a physical safety, it's emotional safety, the mental safety. Because again, if you're a trans individual living in the United States right now, whether you're a kid, whether you're a young adult, whether you're an older adult, you probably feel attacked in almost every direction, whether it's from your government, whether it's from schools, whether it's from the religious sect, like whatever. It's like everybody wants to go on the fringe attack on this one particular population. And the mental harm that you have to imagine that these people get up and live with every single day.
I can imagine. I can't
I
imagine
can't
opening
either.
a dang social media platform, watching every dang news outlet, even if you're watching more progressive news sources, they're still talking about the attacks on trans people. I mean, just every day to be like, oh, good, another day where I wonder, if people want to just rip my rights away. Oh, great, another day of this. Like,
When
how?
there are much, much, much bigger things going on in
There are
our world that need to be paid attention to.
absolutely real problems, guys. We have real problems. We have real problems. We have real problems. There are children in Gaza eating dirt right now. They have no food. And regardless of where you stand politically or ideologically on the issue of who's right or who's wrong, we are talking about children eating dirt. And you're worried about what's in somebody's pants. You're worried about whether somebody gives themselves a shot to make their body look different. That's what you're worried about. Dirt. They're eating dirt. I don't know how to connect with that. I don't know what to say to that. Oh, okay.
And half that population is under 18.
Right.
And half that, and
I don't know how to not think you're a bad person whenever you, like, I want to try to be like, well, people come with different experiences, and am I being judgy? And I don't know how else to look at it, except to say, you're just a bad person if you're attacking these people while children are eating dirt and you don't seem to care about that. What else am I supposed to think? I think Amber froze. That's okay. We're gonna stay through.
I was gonna say, okay. Woo! All right. Oops. I was gonna say I went spinning, you went spinning, and I was like, I don't know who's spinning. Oops. Sorry about that, guys.
Like dip down to get my nicotine fix because I pulled it up to my mouth and did it earlier, and it restricted my viewership for 10 minutes for vaping on the live. So yeah, that's why I'm bending down. I know. So I was like, okay,
wow.
Well, learned. At least we learned it now on one of our first ones. So see you in a second. Girl, I'm addicted. Okay.
Wow.
Do you see this?
Okay. But yeah, so that, I mean, and Tiana had said that she kind of wrote something that's semi-related that she sent me on the current topic that she wrote last night.
Oh, I'd love to read it.
And I just think there are just so many other things that are bigger and bolder out there, and so you're going to hear us talk about things that you're hearing a lot about.
Yeah.
That honestly they don't exist. But we want you to understand why they're out there, why they're being put out there, what the truth is behind it, truly. So that you do understand. Tonight, for example, there are 25 resources that I dropped in the comments. There actually were probably 130 that I pulled from. Those were just the 25 biggest ones that I pulled from. There is plenty of, and I did that because I want y'all to understand there is plenty of information that you can go dig and you can go find this. You can go find out that there have been 0 trans people that have ever attacked anyone in a bathroom. And when I say that, I mean there's 0 convictions.
Yeah. Karen Haley.
And this is what we want to provide you with. We want to give y'all. She sent it to you too, Jenny. Tiana did.
Thanks.
And so that is just something that we felt like this week, as far as like dispelling the myths on this trans safety topic, it's just one that you hear a lot about. Again, I think it was 3 weeks ago, because it was Transgender Day of Visibility when I got those comments about the Audrey Hale comment. And that just kind of broke out this. Since then, there have been more stories about trans safety. And so I just finally told Jenny, I was like, let's break that one down. Because I'm just...
And in a nutshell, you're safe. Trans people are not. There.
Right?
Summed it, TLDR. Summed it up for you. You are safe if you are cisgender. Trans people are not. Non-binary people are not. That's who's not safe. When you talk about safety, they're not safe. Because people
when you think about that many bills are out there to target what bathroom they can go to, whether or not they can play on sports, whether they can be called by their name, honored by the respect that they deserve as a human being, to go by the name and pronoun that they choose, whether or not they should be outed by their teachers to the parents, whether or not they should have access to health care, whether or not children have access to health care, whether or not doctors can be sued, not by the parents, not by the kids, but by outsiders who have an opinion.
Yeah. Isn't that crazy?
When you have that many different things coming at that one population, and that population is that teeny tiny, who do you think they're coming after next? Have you looked at the women's reproductive bills that are going on?
Oh, shoot.
And if you haven't paid attention, you should, because they're trying to go after further and further of those, and they're doing that while you're distracted with trans rights.
Yeah. And they're slipping them in the same bills.
They are.
They
are.
Little umbrella tactics to make sure that when one is harmed and one is denied autonomy, all are harmed and all are denied autonomy. And I'm very interested that we've seen it now start to go after in vitro fertilization, because I am that bee who, as soon as Roe v. Wade was overturned, said, when are we going after IVF? Because I was pissed, and I'm still pissed, and I maintain it. If it's not okay for my daughter to make reproductive choices, why should somebody else get to make 900 embryos? Some of them just get pitched and thrown away. First of all, I don't care. Throw all the embryos away. I don't give a shit. Doesn't matter to me. IVF, I am 100% bodily autonomy and reproductive freedom. 100% all the way. But until it affects you, until it affects, the people down at the church who prayed and prayed and prayed for a baby, and they don't want to go adopt any of the little babies that they're asking all of people like my kids to give their babies up for adoption because they can't have an abortion. So now, we've created all these adoptable babies that nobody wants, but they have every right to go to a clinic and spend hundreds of thousands of dollars to try to get impregnated. And that's covered by healthcare. IVF is covered by not all healthcare, don't get me wrong, but plenty do. That's covered, and that's just fine for them to do. And so I say, no, come for one, come for all, because it's going to have to make somebody else uncomfortable. It's going to have to impact somebody else who thought, well, I didn't think they'd eat my faces, or whatever the little meme is. I didn't think this would affect me. Well, it did. And I'm glad. I'm thrilled when something that you thought was just going to harm those people comes back to bite you. It's, what is they call it? Like schnauzer fraud or whatever the word is. I say schnauzer fraud because I don't know. It's like Schadenfreude or something like that.
Schadenfreude, I believe.
I say schnauzer fraud. I delight.
I like yours. Although I had a schnauzer, so I don't want to speak poorly of schnauzers. But sorry to anybody who loves schnauzers out there. We're not.
No, we love schnauzers.
We're not. Right. And Michelle, I love Michelle's point here. The cost of small-mindedness is off the chain. Reproductive rights, freedom of speech, human rights. Absolutely.
It's very costly, and it's going to continue to be costly, and it's going to cost people in ways that they don't realize because they're so blinded by controlling someone else or being in power or deciding that they are the arbiters of truth and reality and all things, whatever. It is going to cost them too. And when it does, what's funny is a lot of times they don't even realize it. They don't even realize that they hurt their own feelings, that they caused their own misery. And, because their politicians come along and give them somebody else to blame for it. I mean,
there's always somebody else to blame for it.
Somebody else to blame for it. Anytime I even remotely bring up the ridiculous cost of healthcare, my parents try to tell me it's because of all the Mexicans coming over here and getting free healthcare.
Yep. Free healthcare. Bankrupting the hospitals. Yep.
Okay. So you're talking hospitals that are making money hand over fist, record profits all the dang time. You're talking about healthcare or health insurance companies. You think they're hurting for money? But yes, it's the immigrant.
And the pharmaceutical companies, they've got plenty of bank. Like, who is missing the money here?
Immigrant who fled for their lives with their child and came here with nothing. They're the problem. That's the problem. That's who it is.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh, well, I mean, that they like to do that on there's so many political points. I should have done my political podcast, and I'm kind of disappointed I didn't, but because there's
Listen,
just so much,
we can turn this
there's so
so
much discriminate, or not discrimination, there's so much disinformation out there
well. I mean, that
to
means
distract you from the truth.
we have like
Always.
the first week of every month, we need to do like political update, or the last week of every month, something like that. We can schedule. We can do that. Who says we
That
can't?
sounds good to me.
It's us.
Well, right. Well, I mean, don't get me started. I'll start yet another podcast because like that's my brain.
I know.
I have like a short series, like a health series that a friend of mine we're gonna do that kind of like looks at the medical healthcare system here in the U.S. and the pitfalls and the circus act if you have chronic illness or autoimmune and chasing it down. And honestly, the fact that you're handcuffed by your insurance companies, you're handcuffed whether you have access, you're handcuffed by your state governments, whether they've expanded access. It just the whole 9 yards. Because she's going through quite a few things, just like I am. And so we
Man,
both were like, we need to do one. I was like, but we don't need to do a full series because, like, we're really going to depress people. Maybe like a 4 or 5 episode. We go back and forth on a few topics and then just end it. And she was just like, yeah, Amber, I don't think you need do you need another full show? And I was like, no, I don't. But healthcare again is that's my tea. So I love healthcare.
put that in here for sure, 100%. Even if it's not regarding the trans community, it affects all people. That's okay. Hi, Lily.
Michelle, only a fool that thinks what's been done to others won't be done to them. Hashtag dummies.
Yeah.
Yeah, 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 precisely. If we allow it to one, they'll go after more.
Why wouldn't they? Why
We gave
wouldn't
them permission. We gave them permission.
they down and took it? And every single person, I've said this on so many of our shows, every single person that wants to say, well, I don't vote, it's the lesser of two evils, both parties suck, they're all crooked, you're right. But one of them is trying to make it so that my son can't exist. Like, I get it, I really do, but you're missing the point. Yep. Yep. Yes.
You just made it.
It's
1
the
minute.
argument. Both are dangerous. We know. We have
Right.
acknowledged that, well, one is almost guaranteed dangerous. One is a total, like, we've already seen it. We already know what they do. And you got to make a choice in this lifetime. You got to show up, or else they think that you just don't care. They think that you will let them do whatever they want. And I get it. I said this one of our last shows. I vote because, God damn it, they're gonna know I'm here. I may not win. My campaign never wins in the state of Oklahoma, but they're gonna know I'm here. You are
right.
Not
I feel like that in my county too. I definitely feel like that in my county.
I'm here. They start listening. They go, uh-oh, there's sure a lot of them here. If I want to stay in office, I better get a little more agreeable on some of their points.
Right.
That's the whole point of it. And your local election's your most important election. There, I'm off my voting rate.
No. It is like that is hardcore. It starts at home.
Yep, it's your most important
It
election.
really does. Like, I mean, I know that there's a lot that goes on at the federal level, but it starts at home, and you have to start there and work your way out and know that every single level matters.
Yeah.
Who you're voting for, who you're putting in, what they stand for.
A single economic policy that is more important than human life and autonomy. I can't think of a single tax break that is more important. And when you tell me, well, that's in order to keep money in the hands of people, and when people have money, they're safer and they live better lives. They can't even earn money if they're not alive. They can't even earn money if they can't. We're talking human rights. We are talking about human freaking rights, and there's no economic policy that you're going to convince me is worth the destruction of the rights of our citizens. They're off.
No. Well, they're citizens.
Right.
You've created, quite frankly, a portion of our population who are American born and bred citizens that we're all about our Americanship here that you're targeting.
Yeah. Yeah.
that you're making refugees in their own country.
in their own country. I have a girlfriend in Ohio. You know her. She's our little mutual on Linky. And, as soon as she came out, she lost 75% of her income. People stopped hiring her to do as if her photography had changed, as if anything about her skill
Right.
and quality as a professional photographer had changed, because now she was wearing dresses and now she had longer hair and was putting her makeup on. And where do people go? Where do they go when it's everywhere? Even my son,
Right.
oh, I'm going to go to Colorado and then it's going to be great. And we go to Colorado and we're talking to some people and they were like, we got him here too. We got the bigots and the transphobes and the awful people. They live here too. And you just keep, I know what it's like. And I know you know what it's like, Amber, in a very conservative, predominantly religious state, very, very red state. There's always this thought in the back of your head, like, well, surely there's somewhere, it must be my state. It must be where I am. It must be these people. And if I could get away from these people, or I could get my kids to a safer state. And those people are everywhere. And unless we continue to speak up, disseminate this information, let people know, that a lot of things are being told are just lies. You're
Right.
being lied to. And it's making you feel better that somebody else doesn't like someone you don't like because you think it's different or weird or yucky or whatever. I mean, honestly, who cares? But people are guiding the thoughts and behaviors and policies of people just based on discrimination. And that is so scary.
Right.
And they're being lied to and they're eating it up. They're just
Yeah, there is a part of our population that has become cultish, right? I mean, they're just cultish, and they're willing to go along with
Lisa.
whatever the leaders of that party, they're willing to go along with it, no matter how much truth, honestly, we give them. So for us, I feel like it is kind of like very important that the people that are at least willing to understand
Right.
know what's going on, or who are trying to understand, that you know what's going on so that you vote. Because I kind of know that there are some people, it's going to be really hard to get them ever on the same side of trans rights. At
Yeah.
least in the next few years, because it's just
And
been
more
gaslit.
allies, more parents like we are have got to speak up. The
Yep.
trans community is caring enough, and they're out there and they're doing it. Every trans creator I see on here, I mean, I do my best to comment, to like, to support and love, because they need and deserve it. But they can't carry this on their own. They shouldn't have to. 1% of the population cannot do this. 2% of the population cannot do this by themselves. And those of us who
Right.
are uncomfortable to speak up and say something because somebody in my work might think something, I don't want to post this on LinkedIn, or I am convinced that I have lost a couple of sales because of my pro-trans positive content on TikTok. I had a couple of sales
I definitely know I lost like LinkedIn people. Like I
that
would start talking about it and like suddenly they disappeared. And it's funny because actually within my women's groups, because I came out and they were like, you're so powerful. Like you're so, as far as like wanting to fight against the trans right, like my stance in it. That then, because in those women's groups, they were like, oh, Amber is fantastic. Amber blah, Amber. Some of those people that originally disconnected with me for speaking about trans rights are now friends with me, or decided to try and connect with me again, because
yeah,
the other women's groups were like, you, Amber is a force. You should be friends with her. And it's just like, but you left me because I was a force on trans rights.
right. Well, they're turfs,
Uh,
Oh, we may
mm,
pay for you to be pro woman as long as she was born with a vagina. Like, who cares?
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Who cares?
yeah.
Yeah, it's more of us have to speak out. More of us have to
Woo!
be comfortable. The South is 45 minutes from everywhere now. It's why you gotta speak up.
Wow. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You,
Woo!
you gotta speak up. You gotta
MAGA
say,
minions.
because me losing a couple of sales, Amber losing
Definitely.
a few connections, that's nothing compared to people who are losing their entire jobs, their safety, their lives,
Healthcare access.
access to healthcare. This is nothing. If I'm not willing,
Which I mean, when you lose your healthcare access, you're losing your access to your authenticity. If you're on blockers, right? Or hormone treatments of some sort, you are literally losing the ability to be yourself because
right,
somebody else decided and they had a political opinion about it.
right, that you're a political talking point. I need to get back on my hormone blockers. Like I'm sitting over here and I can like feel itch in here. And then I need to be on estrogen, but I just haven't gone and done it. And what's to say that at some point they won't say, well, women over a certain age don't need that? I don't know what reason they would come up with, but why wouldn't they? Like they
That
can
there'll be one. There'll be one.
there'll be one. There'll be something. And
They'll
it's all
find something.
down to if you are not generally a cisgender straight white male or adjacent or a simp for them,
Right?
they're coming for you in all sorts
All
of
of us.
ways. And then it's like a little writing on the wall. Then who's going to speak up? Who's going to speak up? Who will speak up for me? So we speak up for each other. We are past our hour. Sometimes we can just get going.
We are. We
And
do. Well, that's okay. And my mother, if you saw me, like, my mom stepped in. The AC has been busted in the downstairs since Thursday, and we've had rain, and so he's not been able to get out here. And I guess he's gotten here. So my mother was coming in to tell me because my boys left because it's so hot downstairs. They went to a friend's house for dinner. They were just like, "It's too hot downstairs. We're going out." So yeah, like, yeah, we are over. But
in my world, like the dogs come in, the kids, the dogs will bark. It's never
right,
great.
right.
Do that on TikTok. Lesson learned. So
Oh well.
hopefully, in the near future, what you will see whenever we pop up live is Amber actually on screen with me, but she has got to get up to 1,000 followers. So if you are still joining us, first of all, thank you so much for hanging in there with us. We care very much about this topic, very passionate, but please go give Moonchild77 a follow. When she gets up to 1,000 followers, we can do it the real way and not this, where I have to basically turn my phone on to look at the computer. If you are on LinkedIn, fine, get on TikTok. What are you doing? It's probably going to get banned anyway. You might as well enjoy it while you can. And find Amber, who is Moonchild77 on TikTok. Give her a follow so we can do this in a little better way. Although this isn't really a bad deal, too. I don't know.
No, it's not. It's not. It's not too bad. We're gonna have to figure out once I get live access how for us to do this and LinkedIn anyway, like the StreamYard thing. So
every dang Sunday night at 6:00, we've been doing it for a while now, for several months. We've been going live on LinkedIn, but at one point I was like, we need to reach a broader audience. And I love my audience of trans folks and allies on TikTok. So definitely wanted to be able to reach out to them too and let them know they are loved, supported, and that we are staying on top of things. We are trying to get information out there to other people for the express purpose of helping them to maintain their rights, their autonomy, their dignity, and their place and their safety in this country.
Right. So please join us back next week. We will be putting that event out soon. But yeah, and I'll be checking in to answer other people's comments. If you commented and we didn't see it, we didn't say something to you, either we just had lots of comments, or sometimes I don't always get all of them through StreamYard. We won't see all of them. So I do try and go back to LinkedIn and check all of them and answer whoever if I didn't answer you on the show. So thank you all for coming this week, and we will see you next week. I'm going to play out our outro. Jenni, thank you once again for being with me.
Always a pleasure. I love y'all so much. And go say something nice to a trans person today.
Yes, please. All right. Bye.